Hello everyone, Watties here, and today I'm going to be giving you my final review of Titanfall.
Boy, this is a battle of attrition.
Now, this may seem like an odd choice. Titanfall came out around a year and a half ago, and the marketing for the second game hasn't even started yet. The reason I chose to review Titanfall is to thank Respawn for making a game that I consider to be one of my favorite multiplayer first-person shooters ever, and to respond to a few of the common comments I see on the game. To do this, I'll first discuss what I love about the game, and then move on into a discussion in regards to its current state and the future with Titanfall 2. Now the big question is what makes a multiplayer first-person shooter good? In general, I find it to rely on three pillars, being that it controls well, it rewards skill, and that it's in some way fun. While this may sound simple, these three pillars are extremely hard to balance, especially with the multiple opinions on what they mean and how they're weighted. Needless to say, I think Titanfall achieves a near-perfect balance of these pillars, and the key is in the core gameplay. Titanfall has three primary components, being the human-controlled players, known as pilots, the giant robot mechs, known as Titans, and the bots, known as minions. When a match begins, players start on a 6v6 playing field as their pilots. As the game progresses, a timer counts down to the point that you're able to call in your Titan. However, you can reduce the timer by killing pilots and killing bots. This brings me to the first thing I love about Titanfall, and that is the inclusion of the bots. I remember when the inclusion of the bots was first announced, there seemed to be this impression around the internet that they were some method of casual catering to make new players feel better, or that their only practical purpose would be to fill space on the Titan-sized maps. I'd be lying if I wasn't initially shocked by the decision myself. However, when I played the beta, I realized that the bots actually introduce increased speed and tactic to Titanfall. If we look at the mode attrition, the inclusion of bots basically turned Team Deathmatch into an objective mode, where you can't just sit around and camp. Because if you do sit around and camp, you won't be racking up attrition points. And if you don't rack up attrition points quicker than your enemy, you lose the game. With this, players not only have to worry about other pilots, but also accumulating attrition points from the bots without giving up points by dying. This turns Titanfall into a game where everyone is actively hunting each other all the time. Ultimately, the bots push the action and keep the game fast and fun, but also stretch the skill gap by adding an extra layer of depth and complexity. And while the bots are one key component to why Titanfall is so great, that only scratches the surface of what Titanfall brings to the table. Now that we've established largely how the game works, let's dive into the core feel behind the game. At the heart of Titanfall, it largely controls and handles like Respawn's previous work when a lot of the team was at Infinity Ward working on Call of Duty. This means that the game feels silky smooth, running at 60 plus frames per second. Things react as they're supposed to, and it handles as good or better than any shooter on the market. What Titanfall has apart from Call of Duty, though, is futuristic movement mechanics, including wall running and double jumping. The integration of these mechanics is flawless. They're extremely fun and easy to use, and they also increase the skill gap. The movement is an extremely core piece to getting places quickly and efficiently, avoiding Titans, killing bots, and out-hunting enemy pilots. But part of the reason these mechanics work so well is the scale of the game and the map design. With the size of the maps, the game never feels like an overly quick, chaotic clusterfest. And if you have the aim, it's still easy enough to kill pilots who are utilizing the enhanced movement. Now, I want to dive deeper into the maps. Titanfall is extremely gifted in this department, as it really doesn't have a bad map. In general, the maps are designed to have a variety of engagement ranges. You can end up in close quarter battles, medium range battles, and long range battles. As a pilot, there are multiple paths you can maneuver from to get from A to B, while avoiding being killed by a Titan or another pilot. As such, intelligent movement is required to navigate the map, and once you're in a position to fight other pilots or farm bot kills, you need to be good with the gun to be successful. The maps are big enough, so that there isn't some uncontrollable constant stream of action. However, they're small enough so that you can always find action instantly if you want it. I'd say personally that my favorite maps are Angel City and Runoff, as they have high roofs, tons of paths, great areas for Titan battles, excellent sightline variety, and a general great size. Although as I said, Titanfall doesn't have a bad map. Going forward, I'd like to see Respawn stick to their current map philosophy, as I think it's pretty much perfect for Titanfall. The only thing I'd say to watch out for is going any smaller than Zone 18. While Zone 18 is a fun map and a great change of pace, going smaller than that might cause the game to be a little overly chaotic. But, Ultimately, the maps promote balance, and are a key component of why Titans can even exist in a game with pilots and have a fair match. It also helps that the Titans' interaction with pilots is handled extremely well. Pilots can avoid Titans if need be, hunt other pilots or bots, or can help fight against Titans with anti-Titan weapons or rodeoing. While Titans are extremely fun, powerful, and something to work toward, they aren't invincible, and so using your Titan well is an important part to having a strong performance and winning the game. And this is what makes Titanfall so great. On top of its fun core gameplay, everything in the game from the guns to the bots to the Titans to the abilities makes for a balanced and fair game. Before we move on, there's one more thing I'd like to talk about, and that's the pilot versus pilot gameplay. I've already alluded to a lot of it when it comes to positioning and engagement ranges, but the last thing I haven't talked about yet is time to kill, which is really what makes Titanfall perfect. The time to kill on Titanfall is rather large most of the time. If we take the R101C carbine, the most common gun in the game, it's going to be killing in 4 or more shots in most cases. This emphasizes gun skill and lessens the importance on things like connection. In an engagement, the person who is better with the gun is going to win in the vast majority of cases, and the better your aim is, the more moving pilots you'll be able to kill. The long time to kill emphasizes gun skill and prevents more random chance kills from occurring. The better player will be successful. And that is why I love Titanfall. Now I'd like to switch gears a bit and focus on the game's community since it came out. Titanfall came out to universal acclaim, for many of the reasons I mentioned before in the video, but it had a sharp decline from Twitch viewers, and since it's received a more cold reception around some internet forums, and I want to discuss why and reply to some of the comments I've read. I'll start by bringing up an issue, replying to it, and that will ultimately lead to what I'd like to see in Titanfall 2. Perhaps the most odd thing revolving all these internet posts around Titanfall is that I rarely see a bad comment when it comes to the actual game itself. And that's really strange to see something where the game is acclaimed but people are pointing out reasons for dropping it. The most prominent reason I see is lack of content. Titanfall came out and a lot of people just called it a bare bones game. It meant the bare minimum and shipped. There are a lot of comments about the lack of a single player campaign, lack of guns, lack of Titans, lack of camos, regenning not being rewarding enough, and it led them to stop playing or play less frequently and really question the $60 price tag. I myself love single player campaigns, and so I can definitely understand it from that perspective, but I don't really understand it from the multiplayer end of things because I play a game to have fun and keep bettering myself at the game. Instead, it's like people are playing the game for some leveling up addiction than actually enjoying the game itself, and that surprises me. Although I'm not really into it myself, I can definitely understand the desire behind some kind of progression system, but to prioritize that over the core game experience is what really baffles me. And as much as I'm not opposed to more guns and Titans and whatnot, you can end up with major circumstantial advantage, and that removes skill from the game. As it is, pretty much every gun type is represented. And as fun as it can be to just try another gun to make things fresh, I don't see it as a requirement. Titanfall has everything that it has to have. Respawn came out and focused on making the core game a masterpiece, and didn't worry about unlockable camos as it would take time away from making the actual game itself as great as it is. And it's odd to me seeing people care more about these extra things than the core game. Again, I'm not necessarily opposed to it, but if a choice comes down to a great game or unlockable camos, I'm taking the core game being great every time. Another common complaint has to do with the Smart Pistol, a gun that locks onto targets and auto-aims within a certain range. Against other pilots, the Smart Pistol will lock on in about 1 to 2 seconds depending on range and if the other pilot is cloaked or not. The most basic argument against the Smart Pistol is that you need no aiming skill. It does it for you, and as a result, it's unfair. I don't entirely agree with this, because the Smart Pistol is especially useful against bots, and I like the idea of a gun that allows one to pick a different playstyle and emphasize focus on another aspect of the game. However, I do agree that the Smart Pistol can be a bit of an annoyance, more so on PC than console. On PC, mastering Titanfall's movement is easier with the keyboard and mouse, and as such there is some absolutely crazy stuff that you can do that can lead the Smart Pistol to having an unfair advantage, and potentially end up being the best weapon against pilots in the game. Now, I have to appreciate the skill that goes behind mastering the Smart Pistol, because it's not really a gun that you can just pick up and use and expect to beat every pilot with immediately. However, the Smart Pistol being the best weapon in the game can be an issue when it comes to wanting skill-oriented gunfights, or having things not rely so much on connection, and that's why I think it needs a bit of an adjustment when it comes to Titanfall 2. The difficulty is the balancing act, and being able to justify it taking up a primary weapon slot. If it were up to me, I'd probably remove its ability to lock onto pilots altogether, and make it so you have to manually shoot pilots 3 or 4 times, but keep bot killing as it is. If a lock-on to pilots is to stay, then I'd like to have a somewhat slower lock-on speed and a visual warning that you're being locked onto. I love the smart pistol, but I believe these adjustments would make for a better balanced game, particularly on PC. One other comment is a bit older because it was largely addressed in the patches, but that's unbalanced teams frequently leading to blowout scores. And this caused some of the community to cry out for skill-based matchmaking in public games, something I don't particularly agree with. Now, I do agree with the concept of lobby balancing to make teams even. However, I think that players should be matched with players of all skill sets. Firstly, for connection reasons. I don't want to lag as a result of having to be matched with players of my skill. Second, it makes your raw stats worthless because they're artificially modified. And finally, it's a good thing to be matched with players of all skill sets to get experience and learn from those that are better than you. If I do bad in a game, I want to take that as a lesson to get better, so I can work towards being at the top of the leaderboard in a match, instead of it being given to me because they've blocked me off from higher competition. I understand players wanting close, competitive games, but outside of a competitive league-type mode, I don't think skill-based matchmaking is the right answer, and it's been a huge problem in Call of Duty at the start of Black Ops 2's life cycle, and now throughout Advanced Warfare. And as such, I prefer simple lobby balancing to create even games. The final comments are things that I haven't had that much experience with myself, so I can't talk about them that much. The first piece has to do with hit detection, and a common comment being that it's gotten extremely shoddy as of late. I haven't noticed these changes myself, and I generally consider Titanfall to have a pretty good connection. However, I will note there have been some moments since even the beta that have given me some shoddy hit detection moments, and I would like to see those improved. One thing I do want to note with Titanfall, though, is that with long time to kills and tactical movement, the reliance on an absolutely perfect connection is lessened because the better person will often come out ahead anyway. That being said, a good connection should always have priority, especially with things in Titanfall like the Smart Pistol's lock-on and close quarter melee kicks, and it does seem that there is room for improvement going forward with Titanfall 2. The second piece has to do with random game crashes, both on PC and console. My Titanfall hasn't crashed at all since I got it, so I can't speak on this too much, but I would like to see the most stable game for all users. Going forward with Titanfall 2, first and foremost I want to see its nearly flawless core gameplay come back. However, with that built, and with Titanfall's success, Respawn should be able to implement a few more features. Content-wise, I'd love to see a single-player campaign, and definitely think their co-op mode Frontier Defense should return. Additionally, I wouldn't mind a greater variety of map environments, whether it's a snow environment or really colorful environments like wargames. I'd also like to ensure that burn cards don't get any more powerful. While a fun system good players can exploit, burn cards run a rampant risk of circumstantial advantage, and I'd like to ensure that they don't change the result of battles that much. But, again, more than anything, I want to see that perfected core skill-based gameplay back. And that concludes my Titanfall review. Ultimately, Titanfall is a game that focuses on perfecting its raw gameplay, and almost every decision made led to making the game more fun and increase the skill gap at the same time. With the seamless integration of these mechanics, Titanfall ends up being my personal favorite multiplayer first-person shooter ever. As a final note, I'd love to thank Respawn for making a game that focused first and foremost on being a great game. I hope that Titanfall continues to grow and get the reputation it deserves as a game, and hopefully as a franchise. Because if Titanfall 2 is even half as good as Titanfall 1, then it's going to deserve love and support. And that is it for the video, folks. I hope you enjoyed. If you did enjoy, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. I'm Watties, and I'll see you soon.